Hello and welcome to another episode of Pushing Boundaries, a podcast where we talk about career, growth, and development by talking to some of the most inspiring people. My guest today is an accomplished leader who's done several amazing roles at companies like IMDb, DirecTV, and Warner. Currently, she's working as an engineering leader at IMDb, and prior to that, she's played a pivotal role in the launch of DirecTV Now, and that's when we first met. This was about 10 years back, and I still remember the day I walked in with her sitting right in front of the table. It was starting to be a bit of a heated conversation because we were on the vendor side and they were DirecTV, and things were not going very well. But what I constantly got drawn with was the deep listening ears, the compassion, and the partnership she brought to the table. Her experience working through solution architecture, integration, roadmap planning, budgeting, pretty much everything with such perfection and calmness was amazing to see. And I am so honored that throughout the course of our professional setting, we also started to be friends. And we've been friends for close to a decade now. And I am so humbled and honored that she's agreed to join me on the podcast today. Welcome to the podcast, Kelly.
Thank you, Shuchi. Wow, what an introduction. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. It's truly an honor to be here. And just hearing our time together at DirecTV brings back so many good memories. That was a very fast-paced and high-stake launch, and the partnership we built during that time were absolutely key to our success. But I have to give credit back to you as well, Shuchi. Working with someone who valued collaboration, open dialogue, and also problem solving made such a huge difference. And I'm most appreciative of the friendship we were able to build. I'm so glad you're starting this podcast. I have really enjoyed listening to the previous episodes on my drive to work, and I've learned a lot. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here today.
Of course, Kelly. Everything I said was heartfelt, and I mean it. My LA trips to meet with you guys have always been full of such great memories, and we worked together. We did some great partnerships. We would also enjoy and have fantastic time for dinners, and our QBRs were always so engaging and interactive. So thank you for that partnership. I couldn't have done it myself. And me and my teams, and I'm sure you and your teams, we all enjoyed working with each other. And that is what goes in my book of successful partnerships, where you not just accomplish what you need to accomplish for the business, but you also make friendships that go beyond your jobs. And we don't work together anymore, but talk about work stuff when we
That's
share with each
right.
other. So thank you again. And I'm so inspired by you on so many fronts. And I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your professional journey and how did it all start. So take us back and tell us the start. How did it all happen?
Of course, happy to share my story. So, I was born and raised in Shanghai, China, and I moved to LA at age of 16.
Mm-hmm.
During my earlier younger ages in elementary school, I was fortunate to get exposed to computers and programming. It was a time where you literally don't see computers in every household, and you have to go to one citywide computer center to get hands-on on a computer. So that inspired me to get into computer programming, and it was really fun at that time.
Yeah.
I still remember the first programming language was called Logo, which is a language you can use to draw pictures. And I found it fascinating that I can tell the computer to accomplish something for me. So that got me really interested to coding and problem solving. And that's why I chose computer science as my major at college. I graduated with a master's degree from UCLA and afterwards naturally started as a software engineer. At that time, I thought there's going to be a lot of demand in the software industry. There will always be a job. It was easy to choose that major in that direction, whereas today, it's a different story. I still remember my very first engineering task was delivered on a stack of paper. In a programming language called assembly, which is a machine language. It runs on mainframe programs. So from then on, I worked on many different technologies from assembly to COBOL to Java, different systems from internet, internal systems to e-commerce sites.
Yeah.
And over time, I just found this itch grow inside of me and just very curious about how projects are run outside of this company, how larger companies operate and run their projects, how other engineers work and solve their problems. I was fortunate to be able to land a job at Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
At that time, my role was to integrate with the ultraviolet digital locker at that time for a backend system. So I've been always a software engineer on the backend systems from Warner Brothers to DirecTV. I also worked on many different networking projects from CDM traffic systems to firewall traversal solutions and various vendor solution integrations. During all those years, I found myself to lead more and more projects just naturally, but less coding. I was doing a lot more coordination work, explaining technical requirements to an offshore team, and also troubleshooting when the solution is integrated and delivered. So after a few projects, I was called into my VP's office one day, and I was thinking to myself, what did I break? Luckily, it turned out to be a conversation that she asked me to lead a technical vendor management team. She said, Kelly, I've seen what you've done through these projects, and I would like to replicate what you did to other projects, especially how we work with external vendors. So I said no, because I panicked and I didn't know what it means to lead a team at that time. I was like, I'm a software engineer. I'm not a manager. I didn't know what to do. I don't think I'm ready for it. That's what I told her. After a couple weeks, she called me back again and she really walked me through what she thinks as a technical leader I could do. So from that conversation, I gave it more thought and started to see that I could influence other people. I could share my experience, what worked and what didn't work with my integration project, and I could make a bigger impact. And I will still be able to stay technical in that role. So eventually I said yes to take on a team. And that started my management career without me knowing really what I was taking on.
Yeah.
So from there, I managed vendor integrations team, and it expanded to a capacity planning team when we migrate to the cloud solutioning. And to be honest, thinking back, I didn't really have a clue what I was doing as a manager. I just learned on the job the hard way. But since then, I was able to lead multiple teams at DirecTV, and now at Amazon, I am a software development manager at IMDb.
Yeah.
Leading the development for our mobile apps teams.
Fantastic. Now that's quite a journey, and it tells a lot about your personality and for a lot of women as well, because oftentimes they're nudged and given that direction. I want to hear a personal anecdote or some story from your childhood that got you thinking that this is where your superpower is, or this is where your strength lies. Tell us about a time where you thought, this is what I should be doing.
Yeah, I think this was when I graduated from elementary school, about a couple of years into the computer programming class. One day, my instructor called me in concerned. He said, I heard you are going to apply for this all-girls school, which has specialties in English. But I think you should apply for this other school, which is very strong in STEM. You're really strong in logical thinking and analytics, and I think you should go into math and computer science rather than English. At that time, I didn't listen at all. I still went into the all-girls middle school, which I have no regret for. It was the best 7 years of my childhood.
Yeah.
But it did get me thinking about how I choose my major, my career path, and guided me through and made me realize that I can actually do STEM. And this is actually my strength. Back then, I still remember this after school programming class. I was one of the only two girls in that class. I was intimidated, but hearing that from him gave me all that courage and validation that I needed to continue. So I personally appreciate that feedback.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I can resonate with a lot of that because a lot of times I have gotten that nudge from somebody. And even this podcast, I don't know if you've heard, but one of the people that I highly respect, when I first spoke to him and he kind of nudged me and pushed me to start the podcast because he's like, it's within you and you just need to get it out and do it and you'll be
Yes.
great. So I agree that a lot of times we need that nudge because somebody else might see something in us which we don't. And it's
Yes.
always good to be surrounded by people that are there for you and that can see your strengths. I'm glad they did push you because, IMDb would have missed out on such a solid engineering manager and so would have directed me and we wouldn't have met.
That's true. That's true. And you might not realize back then, and
Yeah.
eventually it might come to you and then give you that kick you need,
Yeah,
really.
yeah.
Yeah,
Sometimes those kicks are some of the best things that happen to us, and it sounds like
seriously.
your VP gave you that kick one time, and
Yes.
we'll dive into that very soon.
Yes. Yes.
Kelly, I have heard from a lot of women that I mentor, and something that I myself struggled with when I first became a manager was this complete shift in mindset. I have often heard that women that either are nudged into management, like you were, or they willingly take it up. In both cases, the initial year is a journey and a struggle. What are some of the things that a new manager should unlearn as they take on this journey? Because it's a very different way of operating in business than being an individual contributor. And we've learned our ways and we've exchanged notes on this. But tell us a little bit about what's your strategy around becoming a new manager or even somebody who is a manager but are probably struggling with it. What are certain things that they should unlearn?
Yeah. First of all, I would say I had no strategy at the time when I became a manager. I didn't even know I need a strategy. I think that's the most important thing is realizing that it's a very different genre of responsibilities and job that you're taking up. And I'm so happy to be here just to share my journey with other people who might be just considering converting from an IC. And obviously, no school really teaches these, right? You start from an engineer, it's all technical, and this is a skill set that you had to learn along the way. The very first thing that I found myself doing, or the old habits I had to break, was trying to do everything myself. I was being too hands on and I put myself in the middle of everything. I thought that you are there to help the team solve difficult problems.
Yeah.
And also, I don't know if it's part of culture or our personality, but I tend to avoid bothering other people. I feel bad to bug other people and I try to figure things out myself. But then I started to find that put myself in the middle of everything and I become the bottleneck. My team have the bandwidth to do their work, but because I promised to deliver before giving it to them, now I'm slowing the team down. So I had to step back and now I look at who's the best to take on that responsibility and I set them up to successfully deliver rather than myself being in the middle of everything. It's not until a few years later that I learned the expectation of a manager is actually to build a team that can deliver successfully without you.
Correct.
And the team should grow better with you, but you should be able to step aside and let the team deliver. So that completely changed my perspective. And the focus should really be how you empower and nurture the people, not delivering the project.
Correct. The first time I became a manager, I was told that you are supposed to delegate and empower people to deliver. You're not supposed to deliver because if you are getting your hands dirty in getting to deliver, then it defeats the entire purpose. And as you rightly say, you kind of become the bottleneck. So, very important lesson for everyone who's in a managerial role to empower their teams and ensure that their teams are ready to deliver and get out of their way. Let them do it.
Yes, get out of the way.
Yes. What's another thing that you think a manager should take care of?
Yeah, so what you said here, how would you delegate? That's the how. You know that you should delegate. One other hard lesson I learned is not investing time and effort to build trust and to learn the soft skills as a manager, engineering lead. Coming from an IC mindset, often we're focusing on code and systems and then you prioritize delivery and timelines over how to build the right team culture and team dynamic. So I had a wake-up call many years into being a manager. When I took over a new team, I was so busy just to understand what projects they're working on, how to to prioritize delivery, how to assign tasks, and even deliver critical feedback to some of the team members, not realizing that it was a very sensitive time where both me as a new manager and the team who has a new manager were all very insecure. And the way I just jumped in and I delivered that critical feedback broke the trust from the beginning.
Yeah.
We don't know each other. We don't know what's on our mind. We're not on the same page yet. And that's not the right approach. And I was doing things out of order. So I started to realize that I was missing that human side of leadership. And coming from tech, it's not something that you know naturally, and you have to put in the effort and extra time to build that trust and also learn the soft skills to do that. That's something I still keep reminding myself. It's something you have to keep learning. You have to take the pulse of where your team is, where each individual is.
Correct.
To effectively lead.
Yeah, and such a great point. I've seen this several times in the several companies that I've been with, that people take a lot of effort in building that trust upwards and, making sure that their manager trusts them. But as a manager yourself, they often neglect their own team in the sense that they want to get work done, but they don't invest in their team by building that trust, getting to know those people on a one-on-one basis, and having their back and nurturing them in a way that they know that Kelly or Shuchi will have our back when
Exactly.
right. And such an important thing for all managers to understand and constantly remind themselves that you are only as effective as your team. And if you're not going to invest time and energy into building that trust, as you said, when things go wrong, they can go really wrong if your team is not solid together.
Absolutely right, Shuchi. I also came to realize like these are not the things people teach in school. So I started to look for podcasts like this. I started to look for management books. There's no training provided on the job when I started. So definitely make sure you are prioritizing your regular one-on-ones as a manager. You provide your transparency in decision making, prioritize relationships and trust as much as technical excellence with your team. And that can really transform your team's culture and the environment and everybody's mindset. Only with that trust you can move forward as a team. And it's such an important lesson that I wish I was told at the beginning of my career. Yeah.
Yeah. Great advice. What's one more thing that you would suggest people to unlearn as they get on this?
Growing up in my culture, when you talk about someone is a boss, you have this stereotype image of someone who's very demanding. They might be
Very
really
brash,
loud. They're
loud.
very commanding.
Yeah.
Yes, that's why whenever I heard people say the term boss, I'm not that kind of
You're not
people.
that.
That's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've worked with different managers, and you kind of learn from your managers as
Correct.
well, right? You model after people. You
Yeah.
don't really know what's the right way to manage and what's
Correct.
wrong as you grow. But when I take on the management role, I ask myself, why would they listen to me? Because I work with people who are much older than me, who are more experienced. Why would they listen to me? But over time, I found myself to be in more of a supportive role where I'm learning the team members' strengths, their interests, and their challenges. And I find myself focusing on driving changes and helping the team to move forward and help them individually move forward on their career path. My style didn't fit what I imagined to be a manager, but it could also work. When I was at Amazon, one of the first leadership principles I learned was customer obsession. And I see my team as my customer, and I am obsessed about making them successful. I started to view them as talents in, let's say, entertainment industry. They're my stars. If I'm a talent agent, talent manager, how would I set them up for success and give them the right stage to shine? That completely changed how I think a manager should do for your team. And there is a Chinese saying called 润物细无声. I recently read a book and just rethink about what it means. It literally translates to moisturizing things silently and softly, and it conveys the image of a gentle rain that nourishing plants. And I suddenly had a revelation that leadership can be subtle, but still deeply impactful and profound over time. If you're nourishing the environment and giving your people the right influence and the right help they needed over time. I think the message here is that you can realize or discover your own style as leader. You don't have to stick to stereotypes.
Correct.
As long as it works for your team,
Yeah.
works for yourself, you can still be effective.
Yeah, and it evolves, right? What you're saying is leadership
Yes,
style evolves, and this is such a refreshing take on leadership. I mean, I love that Chinese quote that you mentioned. The rain moistens the soil and gives the nourishment to the plants, and you're the support system for the plant, and everyone sees the plant growing, but people often will realize that it's the surrounding systems that are making the plant to grow. Such a fantastic way of looking at it. And, this is kind of servant leadership. Leadership doesn't have to be the stereotypical brash leadership. I'd love these leadership principles that you've gone by, being customer obsessed, and your customer as an engineering manager is your team. And so your focus is on nurturing them and giving them the right environment and empowering them with the right tools. And mindset is such an important thing because
yes.
people are capable of doing so much more only if they are in the right state of mind. And it sounds like you're creating that environment for your team.
Totally. This whole journey of converting from IC to manager, to be honest, even during my first job, I loved coding. I loved being a software engineer, but I did think to myself, would I be still coding when I'm 50?
Yeah.
Where am I gonna be? And I always question that. And I can imagine a lot of other people have the same question. As a software engineers, where should I go for the long term? It's okay. I didn't know the answer at that time.
Yeah.
But then as you start to pick up different feedback, keep an open mind
Yeah.
and it might work out eventually for you. I want to encourage people, if you do take on management role, just make sure you learn the lessons. It took me a lot longer to learn, but hopefully it can be quicker for the listeners, and make sure that you are shifting your mindset from doing to guiding the team, investing your time in developing soft skills and building trust. And you can find your own management styles and just focus on your people.
Fantastic advice. And I can tell you from personal experience because we've worked together. I also know the people that you managed, and they can go on and on about how amazing you were as a manager and how much you empowered them. So it's fantastic that you're sharing these pearls of wisdom with everyone to really help them figure out what their mindset should be. And once they have the right mindset, build that mindset within their team and be successful, Kelly. More than the leadership, I think as a person too, your persona, the warmth you bring to the table, I think all of that translates into you being a great manager. But even as a person, you're so approachable. You will come in with deep listening ears. I keep telling you that. And that is such an important skill in today's day and age. It's so important to walk into a room, whether you're talking to your partner, your own team, your manager, or the customer, understanding really what is being said, not just in words, but everything around it. Like, what's the temperament? What is their tone? What do they really mean? Are they saying the things they mean, or is there something else? Those are such important things, and you touched upon it. Soft skills. You have all of that in you, and which is why you're such a successful leader. So I wish everyone could get to see you, but hopefully through the podcast, they'll get to see a side of you and get to hear the wisdom that you have shared. And hopefully it'll help people. It has constantly helped and inspired me. So thank you again.
Thank you, Shuchi. Those are wonderful words, and it's a constantly learning process for myself. And I still struggle from day to day, to be honest. And then you just keep learning. And I can say the same to you, Shuchi. I think that speaks to why we could become friends. It was so refreshing to see somebody at that when we first met, on the other side of the table that has an open ear, that's willing to listen and willing to work with you. I think that speaks to both of us and how to nurture a team, how to make a project successful as well, is to keep listening, keep understanding, show your empathy and consideration and all the support as much as you need to help each other be successful. And this podcast does the same. I think we try to help other fellow leaders. So really thank you, Shuchi, for this opportunity. I will continue to be a subscriber and a listener for every episode.
The pleasure is mine. Honestly, every time I talk to you, and I've told this to you, you and your team were some of the most fun customer engagements I had back in the day. But even today, every time I engage with you and a lot of your team, which is all spread out and in different companies now, it just goes on to show that people work with people that they trust, and you and all of the things that you spoke about. And I am constantly in awe of all the wonderful things you do. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. Thanks for sharing everything you know.
Shuchi, I had a wonderful time chatting with you. If it can help one person, I'll be really, really happy.
Yeah.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, Kelly.